Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Today's topic is actually going to be on dashboards, and I've kind of decided to go a different route here after looking at the market and seeing this thing come up for sale was kind of a huge plus for me. I was kind of excited about this, mainly because of what it is and how much it's going to help with my project here. So what we've got is we've got a Resurrected Classics dashboard. This is a dash pad. So what this actually is it's not a recalc like you see with some of the cheaper stuff where you put just a face over your existing dash that's cracked to make it look like it's not cracked. This is not one of those. This is actually a full-fledged foam pad that actually uses your existing frame off your old dash, and you install the frame in this one and you've got basically a new dashboard, which is really nice. Once again, this is by Resurrected Classics. It came in this nice big old box. It was well padded. Really nice box there. Really nice dashboard. The texture is correct, which is what I really like about it. It doesn't have a weird texture. And it looks just really good all the way down, as you can see. It looks really nice. But like I say, the texture is correct, which is huge. That was something I was really worried about in the process. But the first things I'm going to point out is just kind of how you some prep work you'll need to do, and I'll actually be walking you through how to install this thing. We're going to do it together. This is new to me as well. Never have done one of these, so I think this will be really great. But I've actually got another dashboard over here that's not out of my car. This one I actually bought to put in my car, but it's already cracked. It's already starting to crack and it's brittle. So that's why I kind of went this route. I knew probably by the time I started, putting everything in this one, working it into the car, mounting it, that would probably have more cracks show up. So I decided to go this route. But you can see we got some cracks there formed. And it's not a bad dash. Like I said, it's a really good dash. I think it's out of 78. But that's the reason I went this route, because I decided, for the work I'm putting in this car with all the paint work and while I've got this thing apart, it makes more sense to do this now than later, and have to pull the dashboard back out and then do all this again. So, like I said, the first things we're going to talk about is prepping this thing. What I have found is Resurrected Classics sends this thing with excessive foam. So you got extra foam in these things. You have to kind of trim out, which I would rather have more foam than not enough. So I'm not complaining about this. This is actually good, because it's going to allow you to fit your own gauges and stuff, in the way you need to. But I'll show you kind of how I'm taking the measurements. And I've already worked on the one for the clock. As you can see, I've got the clock in there, and you can see the trim work there I've done to get this in there, and it fits nice and snug. Of course, once you put the bracket behind it, it'll hold it in place. But I hadn't put the framework in this one yet. I'm actually doing this before I do the framework, so I can get my hands in there and work. I had to work around a frame, so it's going to make it easier to do all your trim work probably before you have the frame in it. So that's kind of how I'm approaching this one. But if we look at the original dashboard here, I'll take my tape measure over here and show you how I'm actually measuring this out. Maybe you can see this okay. So if we look inside here, you can see that first of all, this is all flush. Inside here, this foam that's in this original dash is flush against this outer plastic housing. So you've got a little piece. I'm going to stick my hand up here so I can show you. You've got a lip right here, which is where, yeah, you can kind of see it right there. You can see what this lip is back here where this frame runs. So what I'm actually doing, I'm taking my measurement from the back of that lip to the front of my gauge, to the front of this lip, or the back of that lip, I should say. So for example, I take my tape measure, I get it on there, and that's ain't gonna be perfect because I'm just trying to do this one-handed. But basically, from the back of that lip, right there, to the back where our gauge fits in, it's about 3 inches on this particular opening. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm going to have to trim this one so we have the same measurement from that lip in there. You can see it's actually got the same lip, which is really nice. You got all the same measurements, and we got to trim that one up so it also falls at 3. You can see that extra foam in there. So that's how I'm actually doing my measurements. And like I say, just I'm new to this too, so it's a new territory. But what I've found that works really well for me is I'm using a little rotary tool with a little sanding wheel, and I just go in here and I actually will sand out a little bit at a time. I don't go crazy with it. You want to kind of keep it even so your gauge will sit in there nice and straight. But basically, you just trim that down, and that'll give you your room for your gauge to sit in there properly. And also, you might have to take a little bit off the edges of this plastic because there is a little bit of a lip for manufacturing. You can kind of see, excuse me, you can kind of see right here there's actually a lip in here. So I'm actually going to trim that up just a little bit to make all this fit. But that's how I'm doing it. And it seems to be working pretty well. I've already done it for the clock as I showed you. But also having to do it for the air vents as well. So the air vents will actually fit in there. I've got a old one here I'm using for testing, for fitting all this stuff. But, and of course there's some holes that are not cut out yet. So that's what you see there. But anyways, I just want to take a minute here and show you that process. Once I get all this trimmed up, I'll bring you guys back and we'll actually we'll start pulling my old dash out and putting this framework in there. So I've decided to move this project to the house here just so I can better equip myself with what I want to do exactly. I've decided to wait on the trimming until I pull the dash I'm actually going to use the framework out of. That way we can actually make sure that we have the measurements correct all the way around, and because I may have to do a little different trimming on this thing. But I went and brought this dash home with me as well. I pulled the gauges I was going to use in the 260. Got those pulled, and I'm going to be using that dashboard as a reference as I work. But here's the dashboard we're actually using. This is the framework we're going to be using out of this dashboard. As you can see, it's pretty cracked up. It's in bad shape. It's not the worst one I've ever seen, but it's definitely, you know, a car that I'm restoring. I don't want this ugly dash in it. But anyways, that's what we're going to do. I've already pulled one of the lower panels here, so I've actually been looking at the wiring and stuff. But basically it goes like this right here. It's just a little trim piece that goes under the piece here. It's got a little plug in it. If it was a 260, which that plug will be coming out, that's for your fresh air vent right there. That's where it pokes through. So I got that pulled, and basically I'm just going to unplug the harness for the dashboard. I've already kind of been looking at how this thing comes out, and we're going to pull the dashboard. Well, I have the dashboard out though. I'm also going to be working on getting some things installed, such as I'm putting an electric fan switch for the radiator. We're going to actually have the fan controller inside the car, so that'll make it a little bit less prone to water and everything. I think it's going to be a better approach. And also I'm going to be re-limiting the outer harness anyways, so I can actually get all of our harness ran like we need to run it. But anyways, let's get started here. I'll bring you guys along as I take this thing out. So I'm going to show you real quick how I got the center console out. It put up a little bit of a fight, but I got it. Mostly just these connectors right here that were really corroded, as you can see. Like I never got them break apart. But basically, what I had to do is take, because this is automatic, I had to take our piece off here so we could fit around the shifter. And then what you have is that harness that you saw me pull plugs in right down here. So this is the harness right there. It goes up to that. And then, of course, unplug the antenna from the radio. And then I had to move our shifter. So I had to take our shifter apart. But basically, you got a screw here, screw on the other side, and then there's actually 3 screws right here in the center console to take that off. And of course now you can see the carpet, how discolored it is. But anyways, that's how you get the center console out. The next things I'm going to be working on is getting the bolts and everything loose on the dash. So we got there, if we pull this back here, you can see we got some hardware right there. I'm going to actually be taking these out here. I believe I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. I'll be taking those out with this dashboard. But getting that center console out had to come out anyways to get this dash to have plenty of room to pull out. I'm going to take this bezel off right here, which is just 4 screws. This comes off. That way if I need to, I don't think there's anything I have to disconnect as far as the air conditioner goes. It actually bolts up under the firewall, and then it actually sets on the transmission tunnel itself. If you look back, get this light, we can kind of see. If you look back there, there's your actual AC unit back there. So you can see how it kind of mounts to the actual transmission tunnel. Of course, you can see how rusty it is in this car. But anyways, I think that's all I've got to do. So unplug, of course, right here we got a junction here. You can see all this little junction box. So I got to unplug the harness that goes into the dashboard there, and I can actually take this dashboard out as a unit. I think I also have to unplug the little switches here for the doors as part of that as well. But I'll let you know what I find. I'm trying to record this the best I can. I apologize for the video. So I've been working on the driver's side of the car, and I haven't been recording because I didn't figure you guys would want to see some chubby guy laying under a dashboard. But what I went on and did, I went on and pulled my speedometer, because we actually have, let me get that to go down there. You can actually got the cable for the speedometer, so it's easier just to pull that out and get that out of my way. Of course, you can see some damages in there, and I found my water leak. If you look back there, you can see exactly where my water leak was. That's the cowl. So that explains why I always had water in my floor. When I would be driving in the rain, my foot would get wet. Explains that one. But something I'm going to show you right quick. I'm going to explain this right quick, because I've explained this in the 78 280Z. But this is all your fuel injection stuff here. Not this. This is your blinker. But this right here is your injection and fuel pump relay combined on this car. And then you've actually got this little line here. I think this actually goes to the ignition module to get the pulse for the computer off the coil. And so that's all your harness here. I will show you how that runs under the car, or under the dash here. So it goes, maybe I can see this. So there's your fuel injection harness coming in. And then basically it all goes right here. This is part of it as well, this big connector. I'm going to unplug it if I can. Trying to hold the camera doing all this, I can't. Anyways, I can get it unplugged, just not while I'm holding the camera. But anyways, this is all your injector harness right here. So everything right here is your injector harness. This actually mounts right there. That's the one that went bad at some point. And that's your hazards and blinker module. One of these is your hazards and one of these is your blinker. So that's how that works. But anyways, I just thought I'd show you that real quick. Also, when you pull the speedometer, you've got a little cable. I pulled it up underneath here. You've got this little cable here, which uses just a little bitty screwdriver, little bitty Phillips, like a number 1, and that's actually your trip reset. When you turn that, that's actually a cable used to reset your trip. So that's what that does. But anyways, I just want to show you that real quick. I'm going to get all this kind of pulled back out of the way, because we're not worried really about the injector harness. It's a separate entity. It does plug into the main harness right here. So this is actually where you unplug it from your main harness for your dashboard. But you can kind of see where it runs. You can see this harness that runs up. That's actually where it ties in right here to the ignition module. I'm pretty sure that's where it gets a signal from the ignition module for the clock for the injectors. But anyway, I just want to show you that real quick. I'm going to continue getting some of this out of the way, and I'll try to show you a little bit more as I go what you have to remove. So I just removed our hood latch here, and basically it's held in with this front screw, which goes right here, and we got 2 screws over there. I had to get out of the way so I could actually separate out our injection harness. So here's all of our injection connectors right there. And then what I've done, I'm not afraid to mark on these things. I'm just writing injector here, and then fuel injection, just FI on this one and FI on that one, and that's got that out of the way. Of course, this is going to be our hazard. Once again, you can see our separation for hazard and our blinker, so we'll get those unplugged as well. But I think we can actually pull those out with the dash, because this is actually the dash frame right here, so we got to have that screw out anyways. Also, make sure that you unplug your brake light right here, because this will stay back from the dash. So unplug that, and of course I'm going to unplug all the harness from our column right here for our turn signals, headlights. I'm going to be doing some modifications here as well to put relays in for our headlights, so we can just reduce that current on the switch. It'll help this thing out a lot. But anyways, I'm going to get these labeled here up, and I'm probably going to use some tape on some of these and mark them. That way I can just make sure that we get them marked right, because some of these it's going to be hard to mark, and keep them where you can see them. Of course, most everything's color oriented. We got a few wires here that are unused. This was part of the I think this is part of the alarm. So this car actually had a original key that had the door alarm. So if your door was open without the car running, it would still make the buzzer work, and that's all been disabled by just removing these wires here. And this of course this new key doesn't have that switch in there, so I just bypassed it, got rid of that. But anyways, going to get these labeled up, and then we're going to get closer and closer to having this dash ready to pull. I pulled our bezel, same thing here. I just labeled this fuel light because we got the little low fuel indicator, and then ML for mount light. It plugs into the mount. As far as the air conditioner goes, all I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this little shroud right here out. That's where those, that's actually where these vents here tie in to that, and it kind of blows air back through these here. Of course, with that one having that big gash in the line, it wasn't doing anything anyways. But going to do that, and then once you get all that, you take these screws here out. I've got a wire I know I've got to locate that's for these switches. I know that for a fact. So I gotta go in here and find those wires. I'm pretty sure they're gonna be pretty close by. Let me get my flashlight. Let's see if I can find it while I'm on camera here. Let's see where I put my flashlight. What's behind me? Hang on just a second. We'll see if I can see it now since I've got this. Yeah, I think it's this wire right here. You can see this one with the little clip on it. I think that's gonna be our, yeah, that's gonna be the one that goes to our lights. We've got, if I can get this out of the way, you can see we got a harness that runs through this kick panel here. If I can get all this out of the way, hold the camera. Yeah, you can kind of see it there. It kind of goes through the those 3 wires right there, and that's where it actually ties in to all that. Let me see if I can. I know this camera work's not the best, guys. See, yeah, those all tie in with single wire junctions. So we'll unplug all those and get those labeled. I'm sure they're color oriented. Look, they're all just black wires. Yeah, they're all just black wires. But that probably ties to all the lights on this door. I guess that interconnects to all the switches for all the doors. So that's probably why there's so many of them. But basically we'll get those unplugged and then label those up with some tape, and then move on. But I'm sure the other side's going to be exactly the same way. But that's what you have to unplug there. And then the harness is, I think, just about ready. Once you get that unplugged, and then we got to go to that junction box that I showed you earlier, get those unplugged, we should be able to actually get this dash ready to pull. Like I say, your air conditioner, everything, I don't think you have to do anything there because it's a separate entity. It just sits inside the dash, and As long as you don't, I think, collapse the dash on it, you'll be alright. But there's all your vacuum control stuff for your air conditioner controls right there, which I'm going to be replacing all those lines because they're rotten. And then this little tube here. This is actually the evaporator drain tube. So as this builds condensation inside the evaporator, it actually runs into your transmission tunnel out to the outside the car. So that's what that does. But yeah, just interesting. I have pulled one of these dashes before, but it was in the 260. It didn't have any wiring harness. So a little bit more advanced with this one. But anyways, I'm going to get everything disconnected here, label it up, and then we'll actually start pulling this dash. We're about to the point we're ready to pull it. So I've got all of our harness disconnected from our column here, as well as all these wires here. Now these are, just like I say, single wire couplings. One of them is a flat blade connector there, as you can see. So I got all those unplugged. That's got the harness loose there. Something else I want to bring up, if you got an automatic transmission, is make sure you unplug your kickdown solenoid switch, which goes to your throttle. So when you floor it, basically pushes that in, and then that's what actually makes your kickdown solenoid engage. This car is going to be a manual, so I'll probably get rid of this harness because it's going to be a manual conversion. But I just want to bring that up. If you do have an automatic, make sure you unplug that as well. You also have to loosen your steering column because your steering column actually sandwiches your dashboard there. As you can kind of see your frame. There's your bolts for that. So you want to take those out. There's 2 in total. Just these front ones. You don't have to worry about taking off the firewall. And then you just kind of let this thing float. That's what you'll do. But yeah, I think we're just about done on this side. I think I've got everything just about unhooked that we need to unhook. I'm going to probably, I want to pull some air duct out of the way, just to get out of the way so we can do this more easily. But I think we're just about to the point where we're ready to go to the other side and start doing the same thing over there. So I moved our little air duct piece here, and I was looking at our controls for air conditioner. We do have a bracket here below it. As you can see, it runs down here below it and it melts into our dashboard. So we do have to remove those. To get to those screws, you may have to remove these 2 screws here. So I can zoom in there and show you. There's actually 2 screws. I don't know if you can see them here on the camera. There's 2 screws here. That removes these brackets here. I had to actually take these out to get the little duct piece out anyways. That's something you will have to remove as well. Other things I'm looking at too, we do have a harness that runs down here. And I think that's going to be for your fan switch and everything. You may have to disconnect that as well right there. Alright, I believe we have our dash ready to pull here. I've only got 2 bolts up here in the top. Those 2 right there you can see next to the windshield. I've already removed these over here. There's one here, and there's also one tucked right up under there. You can kind of see where it is. And then the same thing over there on that side. As you can see, there's one right there, and then there's also one back over there as well. You can't really see it that well. But I've removed those. I've actually taken our brackets loose. Let me get my flashlight so I can kind of show you. So I've got our get that to dim. There we go. I've got those screws out right there on this black bracket going down, as well as the other side, that same bracket over there. I also removed that bracket that was underneath our AC controls, which is this bracket right here. Your best friend for that is actually a ratcheting wrench, and that's a 8mm to remove the bolts from the sides. Over here I moved these brackets here, just like I showed you earlier with those 2 screws right there. You can see them. Remove those. You can get this bracket here out of your way, and then actually I think I still got that one loose. As you can see, I didn't really tighten it down. I try to put things back if I can so I don't lose the screws. But that, you had to do that. And I did have to unplug all these connectors down here. These are all for your AC controls, for your fan control, etc. Got all that disconnected and labeled. I just labeled mine AC1, and then I've got the other ones I haven't labeled yet because I can't get to them to label them. I unplugged all of our connectors here, and I believe I've disconnected those black wires over here. I can't really get my hand in there due to the relay panel, So I'm going to just kind of easily drop this dash and see if I can see if we got any more wires I need to unplug before we start pulling on it or anything like that. I got the steering column loose. It's actually loose over here. Got the big bolts out of it. So that's out of the way. May have to loosen at the firewall. I'll just kind of wait and see how this dash moves out. But anyways, I'm going to get the camera on the tripod here and we will see what happens. Start with this one here. And all these are 10, by the way, 10 millimeters. Pretty much you can take this dash apart with the 8 millimeter, 10 millimeter, and 12 millimeter. I'm trying to bust my windshield out. One. So now theoretically we only have one bolt holding this dashboard in. It's probably going to rest on that steering column if I have my guess about it. See the dash lowering as I take this one out, so that's a good sign. Yeah, it's moving. Knee on it. Alright, so there's that screw. And I think we are loose. I do think we're wedged over here on this I do want to check, make sure our wires are unplugged over here. Make sure everything is unplugged. I'm letting it rest on that steering column over there right now. On that side, that actually helps me out quite a bit. Let me just make sure everything is unplugged over here real quick. Unwrap this harness. There we go. I think everything is unplugged. Look good there. Let me come around that side. I may have to move the camera. Give me a minute. Alright, I got you on this side now. Let's see if we can get this steering column clear. If not, I may have to loosen it at the firewall a little bit. It's going to work nice and slow with it. No, it may still have something connected over here. Let me see what's going on down here real quick. We may have another bolt in there I need to remove. Let's see what we got going on. Ah, yeah, we do. Okay, we got an upper bolt. Let me get my wrench. Where did I put it? I think I put it over here. Got one more bolt holding us up. Double check to make sure everything's unplugged before I continue on. So we're good there. Let's see if that was it. That was it. Right there. We get our harness out of the way. That's not going to snag. That's not going to snag on anything. We're good. So let me continue to pull this thing out here. Of course, once I get the dash on, I'll show you guys a little more on the back side of how everything in there connects. Steering column's going to hang us up a little bit. See, we still got a wire. Let's see, this wire here, it's unplugged. It's just, well, let's see, it's unplugged. The very wire I was looking at wasn't unplugged. We're good there. So there's that. I may have to take, I think we got it. There we go. Just like that. Whew. It's not an easy job. Just got resting on this emergency brake there. Alright, let's get our dash out. Alright, we now have our dash pulled out, and I'm just going to show you real quick what this looks like without the dash in here. As you can see, it's not much to it really once you pull the dash out. I will walk you through while I'm here what screws you have to remove or bolts to remove to get your dashboard out. It's a lot easier showing you this with the dashboard out than it was trying to show you taking the dash out. So basically at the top we got these screws here. I've already just stuck back in our car right here. All those all the way around. Those are for your top. You've got, of course, these two right here on this side of this bracket that comes down. Now you can either take them out here or you can take them out down here. I think it's easier to take them out here though, because you got to be able to clear everything. With these, you've still got that curvature that you've got to kind of work around, so it could be a pain. But you got those on this side as well as the two on this side. You can see the bracket right here. So you got those two there. You have to remove that little air conditioner bracket right here from underneath here, so you don't pull that. Once you get those out, you've got a bolt here in the side of the dash. It comes out right here, and same thing over there on that side there. So once you get those screws out, the dash is pretty much loose. That's pretty much all you got to do to take it out. As far as wiring goes, I did discover that you don't have to unplug anything over here. There's nothing over here to unplug. As you saw on the other side of those black wires I had to unplug. There's nothing here you have to unplug. I just unplugged the harness. Of course you can see these extra harnesses unplugged, but this is kind of cool right here. It's a color-coded Molex connector, and so actually they have a color coding on the harness itself, which is kind of neat. I can also say this could be where some people could have problems, because there's a lot of, just small oxidation in those. It looks like maybe, I don't know if this car leaked here or if it just got condensation and it kind of made these corrode a little bit from moisture. So that's something to check also if you're having electrical problems with your car. Make sure these are getting good connection inside these Molex connectors. That would be something to check for sure. In the process of removing the dash, I found out you don't have to unplug all your connectors here that you saw me unplug. These are actually part of a secondary harness, which is actually probably part of this harness here that we've got unplugged. So don't have to worry about unplugging all this. Just make sure that your wires are not going to snag on your dash. That's the biggest thing. So that's this side, and that's really all it is to remove the dashboard. Now if you want to remove the air conditioner, I will show you that as well. I'll come back and show you that here in a minute. But let's go to the other side and I'll show you what the other side looks like. Yes, now we're on the driver's side here, and you can see the kick down solenoid switch. I unplugged that. That's actually where I got hung up on. I forgot to unplug those. I was just talking about it when I was pulling the dash and didn't. We got our brake light right here unplugged. Here's those wires I was talking about you couldn't really see when I was under the dash. They run to the kick panel. They're part of this switch. As you can see, I can move the switch and they all move. So that's something to do with the, that's probably where everything ties in, I'm guessing, for the switches and the lights. It might be your primary connection right there, I'm guessing. I'll figure out more about that when I pull this out, because this is all coming out as well. Got that. Inside this car we actually have, you can now see them really well. You can see our blinker module as well as the one for the hazards. So those are two blinker and hazard time delay modules, time delay relays basically. We got our speedometer cable there, which actually runs through your pedal support bracket here as well as the steering column. Got it bolted back in here just to support it so it's not stressed out. But that's really about it. You can also see our injector harness right here now. Since I got everything pulled, you can see how I've got all that just pulled away, unplugged. So that just sets down in here nice and neat. That'll be coming out as well. And that's pretty much what's on this dash. To take the air conditioner out, I will show you that real quick. So the air conditioner is a little tricky. You have to take these bolts out here, so once you get the dashboard out, you can access those. You've also got the two bolts down here. There's one behind this tube right here. You can see I'll pull this tube loose. There's one right there, one right there. And then when you go into the car, let me take you under the firewall. We gotta go outside the car for the rest of it. There's actually, so I can locate them for you. Yeah, right here. So there's actually these two nuts on bolts that stick to the firewall right there on both sides. You can see those rusty looking nuts. You got to take those off. That's also part of your air conditioner. And of course remove your lines here for your compressor and a condenser. But basically you do that, pull this little metal piece here off, and that thing will slide out that way. So you can actually remove it as an assembly as well. And in fact I will be pulling that one, but not going to do it right yet. I'm going to wait till I get my 260Z back to put that in that car. Of course I'm going to be doing some maintenance to it as well. There's a lot of foam that's deteriorated. As you can see, we've got much stuff going on here with it that wouldn't work real good as an air conditioner because all the stuff is just rotted off. You can see all the insulation on all the copper tubing. That will be addressed. And I'll also be fixing some of the foam padding inside this thing. There's weather strip actually inside this that seals some things up, and they tend to just, you know, age poorly. But like I say, I did pull a vacuum on this evaporator as well as the condenser. I still have those lines all connected. I put a vacuum on it and it held vacuum really well. So I know this is actually, it doesn't have any leaks. So that's good news. I can actually reuse that. I'm just going to clean it up really good. But anyways, that's the look of the car without the dashboard in here. Of course, now you can see that rust hole. Really good. I was wondering why everything kept getting wet in here, and that's probably why. Especially when I drive, it seems to be worse. It's just right there under that windshield. So it's like right by this cowl. So probably wind and stuff would blow up under there and blow it in. I got out one day, I was going somewhere and I got out, my foot was wet. So that's probably why that was. But anyways, just a good look here. Of course you got your fog, defog vents there that will connect. They actually connect into your heater box down here. There's an opening here. These tubes kind of go like this right here. I'll just kind of show you. We'll fit one. So it goes on that heater box and then goes back up to your defrost. And that's using a vacuum controlled solenoid. These are actually the servos, or solenoids. But basically they got a vacuum that you pull. And you can test these too by taking off your hose, compressing it like that, putting your finger over the hole, and if it drops, then you know these are no good. You've got a problem there. But they're basically just vacuum controlled servos for controlling your fresh air, your vent control for defrost, etc. And that's kind of how that works. And also look at this side of the heater box and air conditioner. You can actually see this vent right here. And you can actually check your controls here because that's actually a cable controlled flap. You can see I can go to down here to where I get into the defrost. We'll put defrost on. You can see it shuts those up and that forces the air through these holes right here in the front, and that's where this actual piece here goes. So it will go in there like down there. But actually these are still pretty good here. Get that out of the way there. They're actually still very flexible. Need a cleaning. But there's that, and also you got your excuse me, let me get down here so I can show you. You've also got your heater controls back over here, which I'm going to be taking out of this car completely because I turned the heater on when I did have this car going for the first time, and everything just fogged up here. And it's not the heater core, it's actually all these lines just are rotten. See, it's the old braided hose. There's also a valve. It's like a plunger. I was going to see if I could show it to you. I don't know if I can see it from here or not. You can kind of see it up in there. It's like a vacuum servo, and then there's also a plunger, which is there to the other side of it. You can't see it, unfortunately. But basically, it's bad, and it leaks outside the plunger as you turn the heater on. So that's a problem. So just got a lot of things I'm going to address on this heater box and air conditioner. Of course, I'm going to pull the heater core and make sure it looks okay as well since I'm here. But anyways, that's a look at the air conditioner and the heater system. And here's a look at the back side of this dashboard, starting with the driver's side here. And you can just kind of see, there's those black wires I disconnected. There's the trip reset cable. There's our rheostat for our dimming of our dashboard. Yeah, I think if we turn the knob, you'll see that actually, you can actually see that move. That wiper goes across that rheostat. And that's actually how you dim your lights in your dashboard. This little module here, that's your buzzer for your, like when you fasten seat belts, etc. That's what that is there. You can also see too how these, we'll get this out of the way. This is all just kind of rotten there. You can see you got to replumb all that anyways. Set that over here. But you can kind of see how the gauges fasten in. They got a screw in the back here. And then we've also got a screw here in the front that you take out. And take that one out and you can slide it forward if your dash will let you. This one here was all swollen because it's broken. So I kind of defied it to get it out of there. But what we're after with the new dash is, of course, this metal frame. So what I'm going to actually do, I'm going to take this apart. I'm going to clean this up really, really good because you can see it has a lot of oxidation and a little bit of rust here and there. So I'm going to probably clean it up, maybe spray paint it before I put the new pad on it and get all that cleaned up. But you can see how your gauges are held in here for your clock and everything here. They all just fasten in here. And of course, here, these are the screws here that we'll be using to refasten the new pad to this frame. So that's how that works. But come over here, here's all those colored harnesses that you can see. There's your primary harness that comes in here to your dash, goes around, and of course all this framework here, which is actually how these connectors are held in place to unplug them when you're working from the front of the dash. There's really not much to it. I mean, it looks like a lot when you're underneath the dashboard and stuff, but it's really not that much. You got, it looks like primarily like two harnesses. You got one little harness that runs over here, and then the master harness that runs to your, you know, your ignition, your switch, and all that good stuff. Main power for your ignition stuff. And of course, that's your glove box there. And but anyways, that's kind of what it looks like. And what's nice is I'm going to be able to flip this dashboard here over and actually use it as a reference as I pull this thing apart. So if I have a question, I don't get stuck with where did something go, you know. So it's going to help me out a lot. But anyways, we'll continue on here. I'll bring you on with the reface when I get to that point. Alright, I'm at the point now where I'm going to start disassembling this broken old dash here to get our framework out. And I'm going to do that, and then we'll actually come back. I'll show you where all the screw locations are because I don't know yet either. And I'll just kind of show you the disassembly process. So here we go. Alright, I believe I have all of our hardware out that mounts the pad to the frame here, and I'll just kind of walk you through what I found. So most of them are all the same size, it looks like. It looks like everything's about the same as a coarse thread. Screw the washer on it. And we'll kind of start over here from the driver's side, look at the back. So I went and pulled my air vents because you have to pull a lot of things out of here to get access to the screws. It just makes it a lot easier not having to work around stuff. But basically we got a screw here. There's a screw up here in the front. I don't know if you can see that too well. Get the harness out of our way. There it is. You can see where that one was right there. We've got a screw back there, a screw right here, and then another screw over here. And then of course that one there that holds in our support for our harness. I left this one in because you can actually see the top of it, so I know it's not going through the foam. And then we've got two here in the front, and this is actually our gauge brackets. I just put this one back in to kind of show you how that works. So you got those, and then of course our screws are threaded into the framework here. You've got one up here, one up here. I want to remove the ones out of our support here as well, because when you look at the top, they're actually underneath that section. So I removed that one as well. And then going down here, same thing over here. We got two here in the front, and then we've got three right here. So one there, one there, one there. These holes here that you see, those are actually what holds your glove box lid. They're actually welded in nuts on the back side. That's what those are. Then we've got one over here into this harness. The same thing over here. We got, let's see if I can find them for you. We got one here under this harness. You can kind of see the hole between there and one over there. I had to loosen our harness here, just loosen these clamps so I could lift up on it, so I could get a screwdriver in there to do that. But I think that's it. I think that is all we have to pull this front. So now we're going to flip this thing over and we'll see if it will come off. So I moved our dashboard over here so I don't disturb those screws I removed. I've kind of got them laid out where I know they kind of went. The ones that actually go through the harness supports, I should mention, are a little longer. So just kind of keep that in mind when you put this thing back together. Let's see if I can get this thing apart. I don't really know how this comes apart exactly. I'm going to get a flat blade screwdriver and kind of wedge in there, because I may have to break this one loose from the frame. Get a screwdriver. Because it may be stuck on there pretty good. We'll find out. Yeah, it is stuck pretty good, but it is coming off. Also, watch your ID tag over here. Anything else under that? No, it's not. Okay. Now this one here is already loose. I can. Loose good over here. And we got one more screw I got to pull. Hang on just a minute. We got one underneath this alarm buzzer I showed you earlier. We get a screwdriver, pull that one. It's right here. I think I can get it without pulling that buzzer. Yeah. There we go. Should come loose there now. Yeah. Break loose from the front. There we go. It's slipping off there. We got one more down here actually. I'll show you those in a minute. Basically, you got one of this little buzzer I was showing you. You got one over here by where that bracket goes across the top. We get that one out of there. There we go. Perfect. That thing's loose. Let's see if this thing slips off. there we go. That is off there. So there's our frame. I don't know what that was, it fell. I think that's part of a support bracket. Yeah, that went right there like that. Alrighty. So there's our frame. So put this up. That's what we were after right there. And then here, of course, is our old rotten pad. Pretty bad shape, as you can see. So anyways, there we go. So now let's see about putting the new one on there. And just to show you real quick, this is what our bad pad looks like. You can see it's all cracked up pretty deep. That's what we're replacing. And here's our frame, just to look at it without the pad on it. Kind of say no, it don't look real good on this floor. It matches the color. But there's our actual framework. So it just kind of sits in there. Probably the first time this thing's seen daylight since 1976. But it actually looks like it's in pretty good shape. I mean, like I said, I'm going to clean this thing up before I put the pad back on it. There's our VIN number for that car. I'm going to be drilling these out and putting the VIN for my 260Z. But that's what it looks like without the cap or the pad. So, like I was saying, there's two more screws I didn't show you. I'll show you those real quick. I'll lift this thing over here. We've got basically one right here, and then there's one right here by this buzzer. That's actually, like I say, in your seatbelt alarm buzzer. And then we have this bracket here, which goes, I think it sandwiches between that like that. And I think that's part of a support for your paneling. I believe is what that does. I'm not real sure. We'll have to look into that. But that dashboard there has it as well. I'll walk over here and just make sure I'm telling you right. Yeah, it has it. So here's our glove box here. Here's that bracket right here. So it's toward this end of the dash right here. But basically, just little clips for something. They clip something up in there. But anyways, that's what it looks like. So I'm going to kind of test fit this new pad. We'll see how it goes. Alright, moment of truth. Before I clean this frame up, we're just going to do a test fit of our new pad here and see how it fits on there before I go too deep. So here we go. Let's take this and it just sets right over the frame. Make sure it lines up okay. Also make sure when you push down that you watch your ID tag here, this lip goes under it, not over it. That fits like a glove. That fits very well. At first glance, it looks really good. I think once we put the screws in it and everything, it'll kind of suck it in where it needs to be, but it's on the frame. It's sitting right where it needs to be on the frame. Just where I can feel. That's great. Of course, we got some trimming, of course, as I've mentioned. This right here is a little large, but that's not a big deal. Like I say, I'd rather have too much material than not enough, because you can always trim back. It's hard to put material back. So that's good. I'll bring you guys in here and let you see it. And here's a look at the new pad on the frame. There's just a few subtle differences I see, such as mostly just right here where our glove box lid goes. We got this lip here, which is actually covered up by the actual box that goes in there. But to be honest with you, what I might do is cut a little piece of vinyl, or I might even just cut this out of this one and just fill this gap right here so we don't have like metal showing when we put the box back in. I don't think that'll be a problem, because like I said, I just kind of see how it fits. But I'll tell you what, we'll look at this other dashboard. Hey Dex, come over here. We can just kind of see how this one looks because it's still together. Yes, you would have a little bit of metal showing probably right there along the bottom. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to cut that old vinyl out of my old pad, and we use that to just fill that little space in. It's not a real big deal, but just something that could show up a little bit as a metal. Of course, once you put that lid on there, the lid bolts down here, you'll never see it, so that may not even matter that much. But like I say, cut this out a little bit, because you can see it's got extra material versus this right here, which is fine. That's great, like I say. Not worried about that at all. Looks like everything kind of lines up down here where it needs to be. Once again, having a dashboard to go by is helping me a lot, because I can see our gaps and everything, how far it needs to go in. Like I was saying, when you push this thing on, watch your ID tag so this actually tucks under it and doesn't go over it or push into it and break your, break anything there. But overall, that's a much different looking dashboard than what we had. But let's see, actually we'll just take a quick measurement here. I'll just use my finger just to see our gap over here. Yes, it needs to be pulled in just a little bit more, so I can't get my finger in this one. And I can stick my finger into that one, so that just needs to be pulled down a little bit more. But of course, once we get this thing kind of pushed in, we can put the screws in where we need it and it'll hold it in place. But yeah, that looks great. I don't think we're going to have any problems. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pull this back off. I'm going to clean that frame up really good. Just get rid of some of that nasty rust. I'm not going to paint the whole frame. I'm just going to really just paint where it's exposed, because I don't want the paint to react with the foam. I don't know how that'll work. So I'm going to kind of mask some things off and just clean up the places that are heavily rusted that's not going to make contact with that foam. That's kind of my goal here. But anyways, let me do that and then we'll start reassembly. Alright, so I'm getting ready to mount our new pad to the frame here. I've done the paint work, just a little bit of paint work, nothing real heavy, just so I take care of some of that rust that was on that frame. But looking at the inside of the old one now, you can kind of see where all the screws go, because you can actually see the framework that's actually within the foam padding, which that one has as well. And you can actually see kind of where everything mounts. Yeah, those two are there. Those are the ones I had to remove there last. Those two, that one in the corner. But yeah, you can just kind of see how it looks. So anywhere we had hardware, you can actually use the old pad as a guide to see where your screws were. But overall, the new pad looks really nice. You can see there's already some pre-marked. Move that pad out of the way. You can see there's already some pre-marked holes here, so we got to get all that to pull up and line up. But we can actually do that. It's just hard doing it one-handed, holding this camera. Basically, we got our marks there. I got to cut out for the actual shoot. Well, I went blank. Cigarette lighter. So I got to cut out for the cigarette lighter. That's got to happen. But yeah, overall though, everything kind of lines up. You can see our holes here, where everything's going to kind of go. So like I said, I got to kind of flex this thing in. I'm just using a nice soft blanket here to lay this thing down on to work. But anyways, I'm going to get this thing pulled the way it needs to be pulled, and we'll get our screws in here, and then we'll start actually reassembling the gauges and everything. Now, something I'm doing, I'm putting some 260Z gauges in this one in place of some of the 280 gauges. Kind of mix and matching. It's going to be 280/260, so it's going to be a little bit different. Alright, I got all of our screws in this thing now. It's all held together. What I find that works pretty good when putting this together, I just did this off camera because I had to figure out myself here. But what I did is I started like a screw down here at the bottom, and I'd actually kind of pull the pad up over the frame and kind of push in on the frame until I got the screw location in, and I put the screw in the top. And that way I'd kind of pull it together. It's basically how I had to do it. And the same thing on the sides, I had to kind of pull the sides to get them to line up with the holes. And everything went pretty smooth. I did run into one, or really two issues. This was something I didn't notice during the process. It's actually it's got a defect in this actual pad. And that is, we've got a big cavity right here. The foam didn't take inside this thing. I've already talked to Resurrected Classics. They're going to send me another one, as a replacement. I'm just kind of afraid this is going to warp up over the time with the heat. You know, you get this thing with some heat cycles in it, it could cause this to do something weird. What I'm really afraid about is when I push the, if I had to pull the gauges back out, this could wrinkle up and cause some problems. So that's really my concern there. And also just the fact that it's pretty much hollow all the way to the front. So I'm afraid this might actually bulge later on as this thing gets some age on it and some heat cycles. We got that, but something else I ran into is actually with the cigarette lighter. The hole here doesn't line up in the front. So the metal work inside the pad is okay. It's pretty close. It's a little off. But what's really off is when you flip this thing over. I'll show you what it looks like. Get it here by our frame, just kind of pick it up, tilt it over. So looking at the front here, you can see that the framework inside this housing here is actually offset. That's actually inside the pad, that metal pad there, or the metal framework. And what I've noticed, I've actually taken some measurements between this one and the old dash, and I'll show you what I found here. So this one, just looking at it, it's about 1/2 inch from the bottom of the tachometer pod. I can get this to line up here. I'm just looking at the main opening where it starts. So that's about 1/2 inch. If we go to the original dash, right here, from the bottom of that pod to the lip of that, you can see it's about 1 inch. So this is actually further out than this one. But I think the framework inside this is actually set correctly based off what I'm seeing there. So if we go here, kind of look and see where that starts. It starts about a little past 1 inch. And this one here is also just a little past 1 inch as well. So it looks like our hole actually lines up, but it's just that the actual pad doesn't match up here. This is too far up. The cigarette lighter hole's too far up. So that's a problem. It may not be a big deal, but I'll wait and see how the new pad I'm getting looks, because this may just be defective. It may be a defective pad, so we'll see kind of what it looks like. That's the only thing I ran into though. Besides that, everything else looks pretty good as far as the way this thing mounts up. It went together very well. I mean, everything looks nice and neat. But yeah, it's really just that one, the cigarette lighter, and this one just have that little bit of defect in that foam. That's the only thing I really see. But anyways, I'll let you know when I get the new pad in. Resurrected Classic is going to send me a new one. So we'll do the same process. I'll take this one back off, we'll put the new one on, and see how everything lines up there as well. These are early production. I think they just started making these, so there may be a few little bugs they have to work out, you know, as they produce these things. But still happy with it. I mean, it still looks great. Still a lot better than what I had on this car, regardless. And if that isn't resolved, you could grind that out and move your cigarette lighter over, or just not go with a cigarette lighter if you don't really care about it. For me, I actually want the cigarette lighter because it's actually a handy thing to have. Not just for the cigarette lighter, but just for, you know, power and stuff. So you can plug in something to charge, etc. But anyways, that's the only thing I found so far. So right now I'm on hold. When I get the new cap in, I'll get it installed, and I'll pick back up where I am right now with this one. I got my replacement dash pad in today from Resurrected Classics. And a special shout out to Max over there. He's been very helpful with everything here. And I got the new one in. It looks much better, actually. Everything's lining up a lot better on it. This one here was definitely a defect. And this one here is much, much closer to where it needs to be. So I may have to do a little bit of trimming, but that's not a big deal. But yeah, you can see the difference there. So that was something that was pretty critical. And then of course that big cavity I showed you underneath here, right here, this is all soft all the way into the front right here. It's real soft. And really I was just afraid the heat cycles and everything will make this thing kind of bulge and warp, and then it'll be hard to get the gauges out in the future because it'll want to roll with you and everything when you pull the gauges out. And but yeah, this is much better. Even the foam looks better as far as around the gauges. I'll flip it over here. Just gonna show you the inside of this one, how good it looks. So this one here, you can see we don't have that big gap and big hole right there in that foam, that cavity. All this is nice and flush all the way through this one. It looks really good, and everything even looks a bit more even inside here. So I think that was just a defective one. I think that's really what it boils down to. But anyways, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to actually take that pad back off the frame, put this pad on the frame, and then we'll pick back up where we were. Alright, pad replaced again. As you can see, this is the one that had the big cavity all the way through this. And that one does not now. So that's fantastic. I also went and cleaned up our cigarette lighter opening. Got it fixed up so we can put the cigarette lighter in there. You can see how offset that one was in that framework there. So I was talking about earlier. We are ready to start installing gauges in the glove box, etc. here. So now I'm actually cutting out the little holes for our glove box lid. I decided to do that first. You can see how these are notched here around. This is the original. And so I'm just kind of doing the same thing here, just notching it where we can fit the screws for the glove box lid. What I did is actually I used a pick on the back side, and I ran it through the nut. And so I actually just poke a hole, as you can see, and that gave me my actual nut inside there. It's welded onto the frame. And then I'm just kind of cutting out around it a little bit larger than what the hole is, just like you see there. So hopefully that'll give us our room. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to trim this up on the sides here a little bit. Now this is a little bit different here. On this one it actually tucked under into the frame. I actually had to peel these back to get the frame out. So we can tuck those, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work the same way. It may end up creasing our dash, which we don't want. But anyways, we'll see what happens there. I now have our glove box lid installed in our glove box. As you can see, we got all that installed. I ended up having to cut quite a bit of material out of this. In fact, the glove box is actually sitting on the frame because this was just too thick. And there's a curve right here that's a little bit too sharp. And it was going to pull back on this box and crack it because this plastic's still vintage. But you can just kind of see how it looks there. So I trimmed all that out. I was able to actually cut these just like the original. I've got them where they wrap up inside there. And I'm going to put some upholstery glue inside there and put those back together. That closes, it latches, and it sits pretty good. It's a little tight on this corner, but I'm hoping a good day in the sun, you know, get this kind of hot will kind of help form this. But it's not bad. It looks really good across here. All of our gaps look good. It all looks really good. But you can kind of see the reason I had to cut all that out because this is just the rubber. And it doesn't have the fall men rubber and everything on it. It's real thick. But so I just kind of cut that out, and it went there just like so, and it shuts really nice. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to work on getting the gauges ready. We're going to be using 260 gauges mixed with 280Z gauges, and I'll show you kind of the differences as well here. But got that. I'll also show you how the cigarette lighter goes in. I've got it in pieces laying right there. I'll show you how that all works. Got our hole cut out there for that, and got it ready to go in there. So here's a look at some of the gauges we're going to use, as well as some of the ones I'm going to be replacing as part of this build for my 260. The first one is actually our speedometers. I'm going to be using a one that starts at 10 because that's for a manual transmission. This one starts at 0, which you find in automatic cars. So I'm switching that over for this one, which is out of a 260Z. And you can also tell the difference between these and like a 77, 78. There's a different graphic associated with those. These look very much like the 240s as far as the stenciling for the letters. The later ones have a little bit more a gap between them. They just look a little bit different, and you'll see it if I ever get one to show you. But we got those, and then we've got two tachometers. We got this one here, which is actually a 260Z tachometer. You can see it red lines, or it starts getting yellow at 6,500. The 280 starts getting a yellow mark at the 6,000 mark. So that's the difference there. So I'm actually going with this one, even though I'm running L28. I just know from my head that I'm not going to over rev it. But anyway, that's just what I'm doing. Just really make the car have a cosmetic look, kind of like a 260. The next things we got here is we've actually got the temp and oil gauge, which I'll be reusing. This is very similar to what you find in like the 260 already. This is a 280Z gauge. This is completely different, but I am using this one because of my harness setup. This would originally have been an amp meter in the 260. So this would have been an amp meter, and then your fuel. And I'm also changing out the clock. So the clocks are different here versus the early 260. Hey, Niecy. Getting a CAT scan over here. But anyways, this is a Gecko clock. This is what you find in like the 240s and early 260s. And then this is the clock that you find later. This is not the quartz clock. This is just a different mechanical clock that you see in like 75, 76 280Zs, as well as the later 260. So I'm going with this clock, a voltmeter, and then this temp, but I'm having a 260Z tachometer and a 260C manual speedometer. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. But I still got to clean these gauges up. I hadn't really serviced them. You can see a little rust in that one I'm going to be fixing. But I will be just installing them just to get this dash somewhat together. I'll be pulling them out at a later date to clean them up. But anyways, let's get started installing them. So before I start installing our gauges, I'm going to go in here and just kind of trim that lip. You can kind of see that excess rubber that's in there from the top manufacturing there. And I'm just going to trim these up and kind of taper the edges. That way our gauges will fit nice and neat inside there. And get rid of any kind of material that may hold us up. As you can see, there's some ridges in here. They're pretty thick right there. So we'll just trim all that up. As you can see, there's some in that one as well. And some right there. So we'll get all those trimmed up real good. And all I'm going to do is just use a rotary tool. I got a Dremel with a little sanding wheel. And I'm just going to go nice and slow and just kind of clean that up. And we should be able to fit our gauges in there. Alright, so I'll show you real quick how these fit in here. So this is our speedometer. We got our harness there. And actually, if you look inside here, you can see right there where it plugs in. These actually have a little clip in the back, so you can access them when the dash is mounted in the car. If we look over here, you can see that one right there. We've got this one right here, which is falling loose. It will go right here. Let me actually do it like this. I'll show you. I got to reclip it since I get my hand in there. There we go. So we'll clip that back in there. So that'll be for the tachometer. This is for the speedometer. And so what I'm actually going to do, just to kind of show you here as a reference on how you do this if it was in a car. It's a lot easier when you have both gauges out, but I can go in here, and there's our harness that we just fed through for our speedometer. I can actually clip it in here just the right way. Basically plug in, snap together, and then what you do is you take this and you just literally just work it down in there like so. It's a little tight. It's a lot easier when you get on the back of them here. But basically I'm just going to work that down in there, and then I'll get it where this hole right here lines up to where you can see that screw in this one I've got put in there, and then that'll actually thread in, get it kind of straight, and that's how that works. Let me put the camera on the tripod and I'll just kind of show you. Alright, so I'll kind of show you how to do it. So you don't really have two hands to do this. What I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to work it back and forth down here like so. And of course get it straight as I can. Get it worked down in there. Usually you'll feel it kind of bottom out, and then I can kind of look and see where we are on this one. Make sure wiring's not in the way. The wiring might be in the way on this one. Looks like we're good. Looks like we're in there. So then what you do is you take that screw that goes in the top, let me get a screwdriver, and you'd actually feed it into that hole and try to find that nut. It's tightened up. Now flip it upside down. I'll show you what it looks like on the underside here. Alright, so this is basically equivalent of laying underneath the dashboard, kind of what it would look like underneath the steering column. You have your steering column running right here. You can see that hole right there, and that is where our back speedometer screw goes. It just goes right there like that, and that's what holds that in place. Let me get my screwdriver and we'll see if we can do it here on camera. So there we go, just like that right there, and that'll pull the speedometer in just like so, and you might hear it pop a little bit as it finds its position. And sometimes I'll just kind of go there and wiggle a little bit too. And there we go. So there's what the back of our speedometer looks like installed. Let me get a flashlight here. I don't know if that's a very good flashlight, but you can just kind of see how it looks like. That's how it fits in there. Right there like so, and it mounts back there. And then our other one has the bracket right here, you can see. And the same thing, we got that screw at the top. We can see where that would thread in up there in the front. And that's how that works. And here's an example of the tachometer installed. You can see exactly the same thing. You don't have this harness in the way quite on this one. But you can see, put that screw back here. Our harness plugs in over here just like so. And you can also see our harness right there for our speedometer. So that's how that works. So if we flip this thing back over, I'll try this one-handed. Let's get a little bit of weight on it now. There's what it looks like installed. And you can see those screws that go up inside there. Like so. Of course, I gotta dust this thing a little bit. But anyways, that's how those work. Now I'll show you how these install. These install pretty much the same way. You can see your plugs right there. And that's where our gauges will plug in the clock. This will be your voltmeter and fuel gauge, or amp meter and fuel gauge on a 240 or early 260, which if this was staying factory, that's what it would have. And then this, of course, is your temperature and oil pressure right here. Alright, I got our clock in there, as you can see, using the 260Z clock, the early one, Jetco. As you can see, it all looks nice and neat in there. And it's a little tricky. I'm going to do a little bit of trimming on the foam to make everything kind of set where it needs to set. I'll just kind of show you here. Let me get the dashboard pulled back. It's hard doing this all this one-handed. So anyways, you kind of see how this mounts as well. So you got this black bracket that basically fits in these little grooves. And the right hand or left hand, if this was a right hand drive, this bar is already set up for it. But basically just go in the bar, put this bracket in there, it pulls it up into that lip, and you tighten it down right here, and that's how your gauges all work as far as how they're mounted in here. What I'm actually going to do, I'm going to go in here and actually grind down a little bit of this foam to get my measurements right, as I had showed you at the beginning of the video. But now with the frame in here, I'm actually able to take a direct measurement, and we can know exactly where we need to be. But anyways, that's how it works, and so far it's going together pretty good. It's a really nice dash. What I like about it is it's flexible. If I'd done that with the original dash, it'd just crack. And that's what's nice about these new dashes here. And that's what our gauges look like from underneath. Once again, we got our map light wiring and our fuel level, our fuel low light. That goes on that little front bezel that'll go right here. They are easily accessible. It's got everything mounted there, all of our plugs plugged in, as you can see from the back here. And this is good because this stuff you don't get to see with the dash in the car. So now what we're actually going to do, I'm going to show you how to install the cigarette lighter real quick. That's something else I want to show you. Alright, so this particular cigarette lighter is made up of 3 pieces. You got your inner piece, which you can see here. It's actually where you put the cigarette lighter. You got your shroud. This thing fits in like so. And you got a nut that goes on the back and tightens it up. That's how it goes. Now between here and there's actually this little black piece that goes behind the dash. This is actually what helps dig into the position of the dash. So it goes in there. And you got a little keyway that thing sets in like so. Just like that. It's got a little tab on it. Bring you guys in so you can see it. Got a little tab right there that goes into that position, and that's what actually locks your cigarette lighter in place. And then basically you take it and you put this over it, put the nut on the back, And basically this is a pressure tighten fit, like so. That's how that works. You got your light. You got a blue wire that's actually the, a blue with a white stripe wire that's actually the cigarette lighter. Now earlier cars are a little bit different, like 260s. This is actually a 280Z cigarette lighter. Those are made a little bit different. They actually got a little, this has got a bulb right here. Those actually have a little bulb container with a little fiber optic cable that goes up and lights up your cigarette lighter when it's dark. It's actually pretty cool. Most of the time they're broke. The little fiber optic cable just disintegrates and breaks off. But this is a newer style. It has the bulb inside. So there's actually a little incandescent bulb right there. This is your power for it. That's how this one works. But anyways, I'll show you how you install that real quick. Alright, so looking at our cigarette lighter hole here, we've got the little tab right here. That's actually going to go to the top. So actually go to the top of this thing, fit to the hole, and you'll kind of feel it. You can actually pull it from the back if you got your dash out, and you'll feel it just kind of pop in. You won't be able to turn it anymore. You know you've got it in that little groove. That's where it needs to be. And then what we'll do, we'll go in the back here and take that little piece of metal. Same thing, that the little clip will go to the top. It'll slide over the back of that, just like so. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's kind of hard for me to do this and hold the camera. Let's see if I can maybe prop you guys up somewhere here. Maybe. I don't know if I can or not. Yeah, there we go. Maybe you guys will stay there. So I'm actually going to take this, make sure we got that locked in. Find that little groove on that ring. Basically, we'll just slide it up. I may have to actually notch this foam out a little bit on this one. It's not wanting to fit around this foam. I had to do a little trimming like that with this dashboard. So before you actually put, it's a lot easier to do this, all this when you have your dash still out. I think it just went in there. It did. It went in there. Whoops, smoked my camera. So there we go. So we got that, and then what will happen next is this will go over the back of the cigarette lighter like so. Should. It may actually go this way. I have to go upwards like this. Yeah, I'm going to do some trimming on this foam around this cigarette lighter. It's just not letting everything fall in place. So let me do that and I'll bring you guys back. Alright, let's try this again. I've got that all sanded up as you can see, and I got you at a little different angle here on the tripod. So we're going to try to do this where you can see it. So what I've came to the conclusion of after kind of test fitting this thing off camera is get this thing zoomed in super fast. This little tab here, I want it to go toward the bottom, which is actually that tab right here. In order to make that work with the light, because the light's got to shine through one of these ports. So I put this thing on like this right here where that bulb will shine through. It'll light up our actual cigarette lighter. So that's the plan, and I want that to be in that opening right up here. So I want it to set right up here on the top side. So let me get this thing fitted and I'll show you here. So we'll stick this through. I'll get that tab toward the bottom. I don't know if you can see anything or not. So I'm just going to get it where I can feel that tab fall in place. Got that right there, so it's in there. I think I moved the dash. So there we go, so there's that. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take our little ring I was showing you earlier with the little tab right there. Hang on. Right there, that little tab, we're going to make it go toward the top, that wider open spot right here. And let that bite into that junction. Like so. Pull it back up there. The tab is in there. It is. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take our little thing here, stick it over. I set up that bowl face the top, so we got plenty of room to make that work. And then we'll put our nut on the back of that. Kind of hold everything together while I do that. Like that right there. Of course, I'll come back and tighten it down. But you can kind of see how that works. And then the blue wire, this wire right here will plug into the back, like so. And then you've got your black and green and white wire right here. It'll go to the red, and the black wire. I'm sorry, you got your black, and your black will actually go to the black wire, I believe. Yeah. So black to black, red to white, and green with the white stripe wire. So red to white and green with the white stripe, black to black, and then blue with the white stripe to the actual cigarette lighter itself. But anyways, that's how that works. Alright, I got the cigarette lighter now installed. I've got our vents installed back here. Next, I'm actually going to be installing our rheostat and our trip reset, which are these two items right here. They're actually two kind of separate pieces, but they use a frame that is shared between the rheostat. This is actually your trip reset there. You can actually put just a little bit of grease on that too. That probably wouldn't be a bad idea, just to keep that thing from seizing up. But that's the rheostat right there, the big resistor that it's a variable resistor is basically what it is. It's wire wound, so it's made for some current. It's made of ceramic. But basically what this thing does, it just fits in there. I had to wall the holes out just a hair to make all this line up. We'll put that in there like so. It sets like that, and then of course that thing would slide down in there like that. And it's held in with 3 screws. Of course, this would actually go over here to the back of your speedometer right here. And get in there. You go like that right there and just go on there. Once again, that little screw that we've got, I just put it back in there. Of course, these gauges are coming back out. This is just temporary because I'm actually mounting some extra stuff in this dash just to upgrade a few things. But anyways, that's what you'll do there. I'm going to get those screws there. We'll flip it back over and just kind of see how this thing looks. And here's a look at this dashboard as a complete assembled dash. So it looks pretty good. I got our knobs on there. This is our trip reset. The dimming for our dash lights. I put these other, I'm going to replace these actual vents. These are pretty corroded and nasty looking. Like I said, I just kind of stuck this thing together temporarily. It will be coming back apart for some little details here and there. But I really just want to make sure everything fit and actually give you guys an honest review of the Resurrected Classic pad here, dash pad. But got our manual transmission speedometer in this thing. Got our 260Z tachometer that starts getting yellow at 6,500 RPMs. Got our temp gauge, oil pressure, our volt gauge from a 280. This would, like I say, be an amp meter on a 260. But to be truthful, I don't have the shunt resistor needed to make all that work. And plus, I have a General Motors alternator with a 3-wire, so I'm actually going to have it with a charge indication light and everything as well there. So it'll actually function just like it did in the 280. It's just a lot better gauge in my opinion. It gives you an accurate reading, so you can see if it's charging or if it's dropping in voltage. But got that. Got the 260Z, early 260Z clock, the Jeco clock, and of course we got our glove box here, which opens nice and neat. Man, I need to clean that out too. Still got some detailing to do, but got the glove box all shimmed up and fixed. Got the vent in over here. Still got to put my 260Z badge in this dash. But overall, I think this is a fantastic pad. My only thing that I would say needs a little bit of work is the cigarette lighter. I'm still not quite happy with where it is. You can just kind of see how the frame versus the hole, it's a little offset. So you kind of get this weird kind of pattern. It's more toward the bottom there. It's not a huge deal, and actually if you didn't want a cigarette lighter, it'd be really no problem at all because you could just leave that hole uncut and that would be just fine. That's the only thing I found that's that's, you know, off. But like I say, these are early productions. They just started manufacturing these. I'm sure these will be addressed in the revisions these have. But absolutely lovely, absolutely nice. Looking forward to getting this in my car. And so this is an honest review of the Resurrected Classics dash pad replacement for your 280Z or 260Z. And once again, can't thank Max enough for his support at Resurrected Classics with the issues I had and answering the questions I had during the process here. Very helpful, very quick to get back to me. Couldn't ask for anything better than that. And just fantastic. But I wouldn't say this is just a pull out of a box and put it in your car. This takes some work. There's some trimming you have to do. You might have to take a little bit of foam out to make your gauges set right. So it's, you know, like I say, it's kind of a DIY project, so don't expect it just to fit right into your frame. There's some things you'd have to kind of do. But like I say, I'd rather have it too much material than not enough. So all this excess like this right here, that don't bother me at all. That's actually great, because I can actually leave a little bit more if I need to, and especially around this bezel, that'll be a little bit more critical than the glove box, etc. But like I say, it's got more material than what you need, which is a good thing. I'd rather have that than not enough. So it's great. All the gauges fit nice and tight and snug. The vents fit nice and snug in this thing, and just very happy with it. But anyways, I'll be making a video here pretty soon of getting this into the 260Z. As you guys have seen from my other video, it's out of paint, and we're getting close to having that car ready to start the assembly. So I got some work cut out for me, but boy, it's exciting. This is fun stuff. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and thanks again Resurrected Classics for making these wonderful dash pads. Very happy to have this one. But you guys take care, and I'll talk to you soon.